Welcome to the third and last session of this chapter, in which we will have a look at more additional clauses as relevant to post-contract management. The next important clause is the delivery period and its delay as to how it is handled. And now the milestones of the delivery are defined in the contract. They are monitored by the service headquarters, and there are regular reports on whether the delivery has taken place as stipulated in the contract or are there lapses. Now, if there are lapses, there are certain measures that are available to impose on the supplier on the delivery period being delayed. Firstly, the issue of performance notice, which can be imposed, which can be sent to him as well as to other agencies concerned. Cancelling the contract should any extension also not meet the requirement. There could be initiation of punitive action as per the terms and condition in the contract. If it is considered suitable, extension of the delivery date with imposition of liquidated damages could be carried out. However, when such extensions are given, the denial clause, which is basically a denial of increase in prices that have been taken place because of during the period of delay, maybe of various components or various material, taxes change that may take place, duties, etc., like the exchange rate variation, dollar rate, etc., taking place, will not be given. That benefit will not be given to the vendor. Extension of delivery period is granted only if the DG acquisition oblique the vice chief equivalent of the service headquarters is convinced that the seller would deliver during the extended delivery period. If they're not sure, the contract can be cancelled. Then the DP extensions can be granted with or without imposition of LD, depending on what the responsibilities are, and they could be as per the delegated powers that are given in terms of the contractual provisions. Cases for extension, which are with or even without imposition of the liquidated damages, are brought to the notice of the DG acquisition wherever the delay is of 6 months, and whenever it is of 12 months, it brought up to the Raksha Mantri. Quantum of liquidated damages is per the ceiling provided in the contract. It is always on the base contract price of delayed goods. So the base contract price of delayed goods, only of the delayed good, not of the full contract volume. Normally it is maximum is 10%, and each day, each week, as per the stipulation, it is deducted. A contract amendment has to be carried out, and the amendment has to be pursued and completed. And wherever the DP extension is required, the proposal for this is not mixed up with any other amendment which may require and lead to a further amount of delay in the whole process. The case for delay in delivery should be moved to the DP extension with assessment of liability towards liquidated damage a minimum of 3 months prior to the contract timelines. And where the imposition of the LD is not disputed by the vendor, the DP extension is given and liquidated damages are imposed by the approving authority. That's very simple. But in cases the attributive oblique delay in delivery is contested by the vendor concerned, in this case you provide provisional DP extension granted, however, with the stipulation that the payment in lieu of the liquidated damages will be withheld. That means the vendor will not be paid for the particular delivery of the amount of the liquidated damages till the attributability is ascertained. And this cannot exceed more than 10% of the due milestone payment for that delivery consignment. Disputed LD cases are to be examined by the Joint Secretary AM, Acquisition Manager, Finance Manager, MOD level cases, and the SHQ on case of delegated cases by the IFA instead of the Finance Manager. LD in such cases is adjusted from the final installment that is due to the seller. Next are the bank guarantees. The bank guarantees that are there for the integrity pact bank guarantee, which we saw earlier. There could be advance payment bank guarantees. Also the performance warranty bank guarantee, which is the major issue. Then advance bank guarantees for enhanced performance Bravo, which the vendor has said that he will impose during the time when the first delivery is given. We had a look at it in the previous lectures that were there. All these are kept under sealed envelope with the contract executing authority. Please keep in mind that all of these are a percentage of the contract price which has been quoted, or the quote, not the contract price, the quote that has been given by the vendor. So if opened, you can get to know as to what his quote was. So all this is kept in a sealed envelope with the contract executing authority. It is returned to the vendor within 4 to 6 weeks post successful completion of the contract. and bidders are required to extend when required. Unsuccessful bidder may withdraw the integrity pact back guarantee clause of the L2 vendor imposed over there, because if the L1 does not go through with the contract, the L2 can be imposed. So while he can ask for the basic guarantee, he is warned that look, hold on till the time as the contract has not been signed. Bank guarantees for the offset contract are to be issued and maintained by the Department of Management of Offset Proposal. So they manage the complete thing and they maintain it. Now, issues regarding alteration, obsolescence, upgradation of equipment post contract. Now, this is a major issue that comes in. Now, wherever there is no increase or reduction in price, a vendor certification is relied upon. And wherever there is an increase in price or suspected increase in price, a professional officer's valuation is set up to establish the optimal cost variation for the contract amendment. The time required to carry out the limited validation will also be ascertained by them. Undertaking is taken by the vendor because wherever there is a delay in delivery, the LD imposition will be there due to the failure of a proposed modification in the trial. He proposed it, but it didn't take place successfully, and therefore LD has to be imposed on it. Change in SQRs may be required, and therefore the approval of the UN according authorities will be taken. Wherever the time is more than 6 months, the present contract can be terminated. However, wherever there is obsolescence management, it may require greater amount of time. On case-to-case to base basis, it is examined. And contract amendment by contract signing authority of the changes which have been technically approved by the SHQ. So firstly, the technical stages have to be improved, and then the contract signing authority brought to the notice of the contract signing authority to approve it. In this, I'm reminded of a particular case in which a simulator case in which the screen was given as a CRD screen, old technology CRD screen. The case went on for many years. Finally, when the contract was signing, trials were conducted on the CRD screen. When the contract was signed and the contract was signed on the CRD screen, there was a delay in delivery. It's more of a design case, looking at a development case, looking at what the requirements are. It underwent a lot of changes. And when the delivery was to be made, much before the delivery was to be made, the contractor came up, or the seller came up. He said, look, even if I have to get CRD screens from the market, I cannot get it, because CRT screens are no longer in development. It is LED screens and even further amplified to QED screens and etc. etc. So CCDs and etc. So he says, look, I will provide you the modern technology LED screen instead of the CRT screen. However, you have to accept it. Now the question came up because the LED screen possibly was cheaper to the erstwhile CRT screens that were there and had been stipulated at the price point. So the professional officer's valuation had to be put in which they had to examine as to what firstly whether CRD screens are not available or not, simple question. But whether LED screen would meet the requirement, again a simpler question. But has there been a change, upward trend or a downward trend in the prices that are there? And based on that conclusion, then a contract amendment was signed. Price re-evaluation was carried out with the contract amendment, and the complete stipulations of the delivery schedule, etc., were laid down. So not an easy task. At times it turns into a complex task. The verification of indigenous content is a major aspect. If you recollect, the categorization was basically done, and indigenous content in each one of them is laid down. Now, while a certification from the vendor is taken at the time at which he gives the response to the RFP, a certain amount of due scrutiny is done. However, at the time of there would be cases in which which is promised, and he would be importing certain components, etc., from abroad, or maybe the full equipment also. He has to indigenize it for the purposes of the first delivery, and therefore the indigenous content has to be checked to ascertain whether it is correct or not. It is mandatory where the incentivization has been provided, oblique a reward has been given for higher indigenous content to a particular vendor. In all make cases above 500 crores, this becomes very mandatory. It's conducted by a committee headed by the advisor, oblique the director costs, and their members from the SHQ and the MOD finance, technical oblique financial experts from the government organization on as required basis. It is constituted by the DG acquisition at any time during the execution of the contract. including the warranty period, and the report is required to be submitted within 3 months. The team may visit the vendor premises. Also, since there would be tier 1, tier 2 supplying to him various assemblies, components, etc., the vendor has to provide the documents, etc., from these vendors, including his own also. The report is examined by the MOD acquisition, and till the time it is not ascertained, 5% of the contract value is ascertained, is withheld till the verification is carried out. The failure leads to forfeiture of all of the integrity pact bank guarantee, the performance warranty bank guarantee, all incentivization that have been provided to the vendor, as well as 5% of the complete contract value. And in case it's found that there is false certification, additional penalties can be imposed, including blacklisting of the vendor. In this, I'm reminded of a particular case in a particular equipment which was very required, urgently required. The vendor actually had taken it from a foreign country with the stipulation that was going to be buy Indian. And in the erstwhile DPP 2016, he found that, well, he could not indigenize it to the levels that had been laid down for the particular category. And when the delivery was made, the inspection of the particular equipment proved that the indigenous content has not been met. A great amount of penalties were imposed. In fact, the vendor possibly made a very big loss on the supply of this equipment because he could not meet the indigenous content. So these are serious issues, and they are checked and very seriously and imposed. Buyback of stores is also there. Now, buyback clause is a mandatory part of the RFP and the contract. Now, if you look at the manufactured recommended list of spares, it is a manufactured recommended list of spares. That means it is what he says should be the spares are there. While the buyer reserves the right to change the MRLS in the range as well as the depth post expiry of the warranty in the specified period. He reserves this right over there. However, there could be spares that are left over, which are considered as excess. They were not required. He unnecessarily levied the price onto the buyer. The seller levied it. So these have to be bought back by the vendor concerned or exchanged for those parts which actually are being deficient in the provision. So either way, on cost basis, it is calculated and this is done. So while the vendor provides the MRLS, buyer is not obliged to accept it. There have been cases where the buyer has said, sorry, please decrease or increase the MRLS, mostly decrease. And whatever is left over, either substituted with what has been deficient or the cost is paid back as per the contractual provisions in the RFP as well as the contractual provisions. There could be certain disputes, differences that come up. The first provision to this is it is settled by bilateral discussions. Facing bilateral discussion, then the process for arbitration that is laid down in the contract, including the body that will arbitrate, is done, and the decision for the arbitration is moved on file for acceptance by the Raksha Mantri in case of the non-delegated powers and in case of the delegated powers by the vice chief equivalent. Now, termination clause is there always in the contractual provisions, and contract can be terminated for default in delivery or for procuring entity convenience. It could be done. SHQ will submit the proposal along with justification to the CFA for approval, and in CCS FMM cases, the Raksha Mantri would approve. It is great bringing you this chapter of post-contract management. As I said right in the beginning, an important, extremely important entity, though it may be less glamorous to signing a contract, but a lot of contracts file through in mismanagement of the post-contract management. Also, vendors do not understand post-contract management and they make mistakes in this, leading to repeated iterations, repeated going through cases, and at times they make losses. And that's a problem. Imposition of liquidated damages is very strict. Now we shall come to what I said, the cart before the horse. So we will take on the horse now, having answered certain questions that would crop up. And next would be the standard contract document. Thank you so very much for a nice listening. Till next time, thank you very much.